Over the weekend, the Vice President said she followed former President Donald Trump in saying she would support a proposal that would not tax tipped wages. If similar bill made its way to the President of the United States, President Biden, would he sign that? Was that something he's embraced before?
Oh, absolutely. Look, this is something that the president supports. He supports eliminating taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers. But again, they've been aligned. They've been aligned for the last 3.5 years. There's not been any daylight.
I want to try one more time on the taxes on tips. So why then have the president and vice president not talked about this over the past 3.5 years?
So again, the president supports eliminating taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers. And at the same time, what this president and this vice president has been able to do is help raising minimum wage. There are things that the president and this vice president has done over the 3.5 years that has helped hardworking people.
Yeah. Trump was the first to endorse eliminating taxes on tips. He's accusing Vice President Harris of stealing his idea. So did she get this idea from Trump?
Look, I'm not going to respond to a presidential candidate. I think their campaign could speak to that directly. What I can say is this president, this vice president have always had the backs of the working people, always. And you see that in the policies that they put forward. Everything that we have put forward, historic pieces of legislation that are obviously now laws, are helping middle-class workers, are helping people in different communities that are normally, again, left behind.
This is one of the first specific policy endorsements that we've heard from the vice president. Is there anything you can explain about kind of how she came to this endorsement and how she'll address the criticism?
That was said in a campaign context, so I would have to refer you to the campaign. I'm sure they can speak more to that. It is not unusual, right, when a campaign moves forward that they put forth their policy agenda for the American people to see for themselves.
And eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
So this is the first time I've said this, and for those hotel workers and people that get tips, you're going to be very happy, because when I get to office, we are going to not charge taxes on tips, people making tips. I will be saving Social Security, and I'm going to work it out that there's no tax on Social Security for seniors. I'm also doing no tax on tips, no tax on tips. So waiters, waitresses, caddies, people that drive cars, people that get tips who have been harassed by this government, we're going to have no tax on tips. That's a big thing. For the next 4 months, because it's going to go into effect very quickly, make sure that you write on the receipt, vote Trump for no tax on trips. No tax on tips. That's a good one. As part of those tax cuts, I have announced that I will eliminate taxes on tips for restaurant workers and hospitality workers and anyone else relying on tips. No more taxes on tips. No taxes on tips. None. None. No tax on tips, okay? It's done. Done. And we need to spread the word so that every time you leave a tip for the next 5 months, you put on the receipt, vote for Trump because there's no tax on tips.